group that brings UX design community, and we try to organize one event per month in different formats with different companies, with different guests. So you're actually taking part in the second event of the UX Meets Big Tech series. We have hosted an event last month with LinkedIn. Now we are doing it with Adyen. But before we get to that point, just mentioning that we are designers, startuppers, developers, and students, juniors, seniors, experts. So from all levels and from also all fields. And we are growing year by year. So we are actually more than 1K at the beginning of this year, and 4 months already, and we are more than 1,100 members. So very happy with the increase and the member base that we got in the last years. I think the flag that we got from the previous organizers, again, who introduced me to Olga Tatiana, she was actually the founder of. If you're talking, we're not hearing you.
No, I don't hear you. Maybe other people also didn't hear you. The last sentence.
Oh, did I drop?
Yeah, you dropped.
Okay, that's actually part of me being in Turkey, so the internet is not as stable as in the Netherlands, so sorry about that. I was mentioning that I hope we are carrying the flag that we took from the first organizers of UXify Eindhoven, which is Tatiana. So I was asking her if she's actually the founder of UXify Eindhoven, and maybe tell with a few sentences what her starting story was with UXify Eindhoven.
Oh, okay, you want to put it like that? Yeah, sure. We had this program in Eindhoven called User System Interaction, right? And that was like 7 years ago when we finished the program. And it was pretty clear that Eindhoven companies were very technical, like technology driven, and heard nothing about user experience. So me and Elia Ruslanova, one of my mates from the program, we thought like, wow, that would be cool to actually spread some knowledge about user experience among developers, engineers, and people like that. And that's how we started. We just were inviting people from the companies, also students, and telling them about what user experience is. But you guys doing a great job now. It grew so much. For sure, you exceed all the expectations. So, but it's your group, Berkay, for sure. Ladies, you made it something great. Yeah.
Awesome. With the help of course, Sarah and Yoline and Kelly and the previous co-organizers along the way. But it's really making me happy to hear these words from you. So welcome again, sure. And thank you. Back to sharing my screen. One announcement that we actually have before starting the event, our own dear Kelly wanted to focus on other projects that she currently has, and she kind of excused herself from our meetup. And we are right now 3 co-organizers, and we have quite amazing plans and ambitions still for 2021 despite COVID. So we're looking for another co-organizers who can help us out and also do it in a really nice and fun way. So if you're interested, please get in touch, and we can see how to make it work for 4 of us. So you can approach me, Yoline, or Sarah, after this event. So that I'm going to slowly give the floor to Olga. Just a bit of intro before. She is going to talk about how Adyen grew from 8 designers to 30 designers in 3 years. So that's an insane growth in such a small period. And they, of course, had some questions around how to keep the design family as a family, how to change the design routines with more people, and how to aim for a diverse and inclusive design team, which hopefully kind of like manifests itself in more diverse and inclusive design work as well. So very curious to hear your experience, Olga. She's the head of product design at Adyen. And a few pointers. She's from Belarus. She has more than 10 years of experience, and she is a wine nerd that goes with smelly cheese. I think that's what she mentioned in her bio.
Yeah, that's a pretty accurate introduction. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I'm going to start sharing my screen. How can I do that?
I can see your screen.
Yes, perfect. So just to start, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really glad and happy to share our experience with other people and also share mistakes that we did and everything around that topic. Yeah, a little bit about me. I joined Adyen 2.5 years ago. And since then, I became head of product design there. And today, I'm pretty much going to share the journey that happened there along the way. So this is roughly a growth timeline of our team. We went through a few hiring waves. Each of them had its own challenges. And in 3 years, as you can see, we went from less than 10 people to over 30 people. I joined Adyen 2.5 years ago, as I mentioned, at our first wave of hiring. And when I joined, we were still pretty much a baby team, trying to find a voice within Adyen. But it was clear pretty quick enough that we need way more people to achieve the goals that we have. We were presented there with 3 challenges. To achieve equity, we needed to start hiring for diversity. And when I joined, I was the team was for the most part just a white boys club. It's been proven again and again that diverse teams bring better results in every type of business. So first, we needed to fix our diversity issue. The second challenge, we needed to identify what skills we were missing from the team. Every designer in our team has its own superpower. It's something, some kind of skill, some kind of ability that other designers would come to this person for help. So every time, for every new hire, we always ask these questions: what you can help others with, and what you will need help with yourself. So we don't look for carbon copies of ourselves. We want to see diversity in life experiences and backgrounds. And we needed to build a reputation for product design. And when I say reputation, I mean we needed to show value and impact the product design can have on the product and business. We needed to overcome sort of childhood trauma of Adyen. In its core, Adyen was always a developer company started and built by developers. They knew that user experience is important, so they brought UX researchers on board. But researchers are not designers and not product managers. So they did what they do best. They did research. But they were known pretty much to turn this into fast action. So UX research became sort of a curse word, the bad word that we needed to fix. So with those intentions, we kicked out our second wave of hiring. At that point, first of all, we were looking for people who have great potential and who would be amazing teammates. Every interview is an interview for potential. It's always a bet on each other, on the company and on the individual. And in every interview, we're always looking for a way or a reason to say yes to this person. So now we all have a chat there in Zoom. I think it's, if you can find it there. I have a question. What do you think is the biggest challenge in hiring for diversity? I don't see any replies in chat. Well, that's okay. Maybe
I have one, maybe.
yeah.
I think maybe when you hire someone, you have your own skills, and maybe unconsciously you're gonna try to find someone that looks like you can find similarities. So I would say the challenge is to really go with something that you don't expect, kind of.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's then talk how we approach this. As I said, diversity is a very important topic for us. And to ensure that we have the right people to choose from, we needed to, first of all, make sure that we assemble a diverse hiring funnel. And in order to do that, we needed to reach out to the communities that represent and elevate diverse talent. So Slack, meetups, Facebook groups, it all works. We were reaching out to those communities, posting our job adverts, and we were getting replies. The second point, once you reach the right people, you need to make sure that they won't run away. So we started thinking through our job description. We needed to think how to make it inclusive and how not to scare people with the toxic terms like rockstar and unicorn. We ran our copy through a Textio to create inclusive language. Textio is AI-run machine learning algorithm that checks your job posting, your copy, and that identifies gender-powered language. That kind of might turn off people from underrepresented tech groups. So after we fixed that, we were ready to go. Can I have our first poll? I'm going to ask you questions. Do you have regular one-on-ones with your managers? The question is yes or no?
No. I think it's visible now, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the answers are coming
Yeah.
in. Olga, you see it as well, right?
Yeah. I do. Nice. So as I see, about 80% of the people who voted, they actually have regular one-on-ones with their managers, which is amazing. I think for me, before Adyen, it wasn't really the case. So how can I close it? Okay. So once we started hiring and we became bigger, it became clear that the current structure with one head of product design doesn't work. The role of design leader is to inspire people to set up and achieve their goals, also to help designers to understand scenarios around decision-making and also hold them accountable for achieving those goals. Team grew so much that we needed to create a new structure. And Nick, how far you can stretch Nick? Nick is our head of product design. And at that point, he couldn't have one-on-ones with all the people with the desired amount of engagement and attention. And to ensure that every designer still gets the right amount of support, we introduced design leads and principals. So what's the difference? Design leads have weekly or bi-weekly one-on-ones with each designer. We discuss not only projects, but mostly how collaboration goes in the product team. What kind of blockers do they have as designers, and also very important as a person? What kind of soft skills or hard skills they want to work on? The biggest difference between design lead and the principal in our organization is that one is organized leader and performer who pushes convention and drives change in product and the people, while the principal is a leading performer who prefers to lead projects over people. Design leads take responsibility for the happiness and the growth of their assigned team members, and generally is accountable for the product design work and the quality of multiple streams or the solution they lead. They also act as a connector for the whole product design group. So they leverage the talent, career interest for the maximizing impact of our product design team. Design principles, they help product and tech leadership to figure out what is the right thing to build, and are basically able to spin up new concepts, build MVP prototypes for new products from scratch. They serve naturally as a go-to person for product design challenges within Adyen, and also outside of product design group. So both of these roles have internalized our way of working, our Adyen formula. And usually that happens through a multi-year of work within the team and actively working and applying and advocating for our Adyen formula. At 2020, we reached our 20 people milestone, and we needed to start our third wave of hiring. And the third wave of hiring was justified. This was made possible because the design team proved to solve not only user problems, but also business problems. Every project that was delivered with product design involved brought value to the company that was very, very tangible. We even started to hear things like everything that product design touches turns into gold. And with this statement, we definitely could sell to the board hiring 10 more product designers. So at our third wave, we're looking for the people who are cooler than we are already and who could close the gaps in team skills and the knowledge. And in the meantime, we kept an eye on our hiring process so that our candidate pool stay diverse, and our interview process also helps to keep diverse talent attracted. Generally, we strive to make sure that we think about our own unconscious biases, and we ask the same list of questions to all candidates to make sure that we have the same measurement for everyone. Also, we established that there is always 2 interviews in every meeting, and overall diverse interviewers group throughout the whole hiring process. So each candidate have someone that they can see as representatives of themselves in the company. I know cases from other companies when people rejected the position because they saw only a white man in the interview process. And we definitely don't want it to lose people to this stupid reason. So now I'm going to ask you for another question. Do you feel supported by your manager? It's also another poll.
We won't share the results with your managers.
We won't tell anyone. Okay, majority voted. I'm going to end it and I'm going to share the results. So as you can see, majority now show that they're supported by their manager. I should say we have a really lucky group here. So this way of hiring happened during the pandemic. Yeah, it keeps popping up. During the pandemic, we had to think of how to make sure we onboard people and make them feel the vibe of our team, and also make sure they can absorb the way of our working and also the way we're collaborating. And we figure out that this is possible not only by pairing designers together to work on the cross-team projects, but also through non-work related events. It's all about being human and seeing human in each other. We're doing a lot of one-on-ones, walking one-on-ones outside of home. We meet for coffees in the park, of course, with 1.5 meter distance. And we also have distant after work activities, like after work cooking together, because our team is so international. In the past times, we cooked meat pie from Australia, arepas from Venezuela, draniki from Belarus. This really helps the team bring together. Also, we learned how to make cocktails, and we organized multiple ridiculous and super funny quizzes about the team. So one-on-ones that we have are not only to discuss the workload, but also to get to know each other on the personal level, and also help each other to get through this difficult and very unusual time. It's all about what energy each and every designer brings to the team. So as product design team grew, it became clear that our one researcher and one UX writer wouldn't cut it. Tatiana is not scalable. So we expanded our team on those frontiers too, and we introduced our design operations team, Design Ops. It makes US research and UX writing. This team works sort of an umbrella to all product designers. Role of product design is to translate the goal of the product into functional user experience, right? And to nurture that experience as a product matures through different stages of all product lifecycle. And each designer is responsible for their own product, for the full cycle, starting with exploration, working with business, product managers, work with developers to understand tech requirements, doing research, building prototypes, iterating, working with developers to build it, doing web analytics, identifying future opportunities, iterating when needed. In other words, discovering and defining the problem, and then empathetically designing the solution. And design operations team is there to support us. So in UX writing, we have currently 3 people working alongside with the product design. They help us to build experience and the story. They own content strategy and work on this content, not only with product designers, but also with other stakeholders within the company, for example, like legal or compliance. And only as a last part of what they do is actually shaping words. And in research, we currently have 4 researchers, and the team is still growing. And of course, they focus on like discovery research and evaluation research. They do everything around the quantitative, qualitative, and web analytics. And they help all designers to identify opportunities and also to evaluate our existing solutions and our prototypes. And of course, along the way, we did some mistakes there. While all our designers were called product designers without any split on junior, mid designer, or senior designer, our job description that we posted said clearly senior product designer. We did it to ensure a certain quality level in our applications, but at the same time, the team got upset because they were like, I don't have senior or junior or mid next to my title. Why do they will have? So they needed clarity about at what what is their level currently. So we had to come up with a clear guide on the design levels, phases, and what skills and responsibilities each one had. Clarity really matters. So now my another question is like, do you actually have a clear understanding what is the difference between junior, mid, senior in your organization? Ooh, the answers are splitting. Okay, I think the majority voted. Interesting. So actually, with a short break, more than half of the people don't have a clear view on what the clear definition between those positions are. And so didn't we have. So what we did in order to solve this, we created a generic criteria that was as a Google Doc open to all designers. And it was meant to be used by designers to assess where they are in their career by themselves or together with their design lead. And these criteria, of course, weren't exhaustive. And also they are not some kind of a checklist that you can check and say like, okay, now I'm in a different level. Everyone's career path is very unique. And according to Adyen formula, everyone owns their own career. And while these phases roughly outline the differences between someone who is just starting, if you would call it junior outside of Adyen, and someone experienced, if you would call senior outside of Adyen, we try not to use titles internally to assert influence over the other people. It's always the best ideas that win from anyone and anywhere. It always takes the precedence over the title. So also our job descriptions and our skills descriptions that we have, they correspond to the real world as well. So when designers would leave Adyen, they can get a better job. And also they should be able to build a skill set while they work at Adyen that makes them a designer that they're proud to be generally. So how do we define those levels? We created starting product designer, core product designer, and experienced product designer. And here I have another questions. What do you all think? Do years of experience actually ensure the seniority? Oh, such a nice answers. I'm so happy to see this. Everyone unanimously said no. And this is amazing, to be honest, because every time you see a job description, you see someone with 5+ years of experience, someone with 10+ years of experience. So, in Adyen, starting product designer is sort of a supporting level player who is still working on their craft, and they're working to understand the organizational context. Core product designer is sort of an established performer with strong communicational skills, and they're proactively building relationship within the company with other stakeholders. An experienced product designer, a high-level performer with strong relationship and ability to lead multiple large projects. So usually, someone who has experience from 0 to 3 years would be considered a junior or starting one, and from 3 to 6, a core one, and over 6 years as experienced. But this is not set in stone. Someone could have spent a decade sitting on their ass in one place and haven't learned anything in this year. Well, someone who would spend 2 years at startup went through crazy experience trying all the possible things that are only available for a designer in anywhere. So starting designers, they own part of the product, while core designers, they overlook full product scope. And experienced designers, they would not only the full product scope, but also drive strategy together with product managers and the tech leads. In short, as you gain experience, your impact is expected to grow across different dimensions. Impact can be greatly increased through scope and influence. And as a side note, impact is not just an activity, like you don't achieve this just by being busy. It should be seen through realized positive outcome for the company, for the product, for Adyen. So our design reviews also went through a dramatic change. We started with everyone in one room when we were just 15 people. And with these 15 people, it was still possible to hear everyone's opinion and everyone's feedback. But when we stopped fitting in the biggest room in the building, we understood it was pretty much a time to split. We introduced design reviews based on the product grouping, so-called solutions. And we ran pretty much multiple experiments with different groups of people, different moderators, different amount of times per week. Now we have 4 design reviews for specific product groups and 1 design review for a design system. It's working, but it's definitely not the last iteration that we have. We started to invite also developers and product managers to our design reviews. They always have amazing ideas and they always help to provide different points of views for us. And design operations are welcome to join all of them, and they do it on a regular basis. We have a common file where we announce topics that's going to be presented in advance. So people can also choose which ones they would like to join, because joining 5 meetings every day is a bit too much. But regardless the structure, we have the same idea behind each and every design review. Try to understand before trying to be understood. Every designer also expected to present at least 12 times a year. Every project should be presented at different stages. The concept stage, when you're still trying to understand your dependencies and also to evaluate your ideas. During the development stage, like user testing and some other work in progress milestones. And it's always great to see shipped product. And for the shipped product, we actually have a very special event, which is called Show and Tell. It's open for everyone in the company to attend. It happens every month on the last or first Friday, I don't remember. We choose 5 most interesting and impactful projects that are also interesting for a broader audience, not just product design. And we present them within an hour on Friday afternoon. Each project gets about 10 minutes. So now we're over 30 people, and we are at our 4th wave of hiring. We identified which products need product design attention and secured hiring roles with the board. And we're also at the stage when we need to ensure that product design is seen as ally to the business, and we continue to elevate the product that we entrusted with. And we need to bring more amazing, great, talented people aboard. And this kind of scale wouldn't be possible without my amazing colleagues, Nick, me, Paolo, and Pedro. Speaking about Pedro, traitor, he left us and went to the Adidas to be director of product design. I mean, can't judge him, cool position. But back to my amazing colleagues. We meet every week and we continue to discuss what can be improved. We're sharing how we run one-on-ones, what kind of new ideas we have, to keep the spirits up, and also to help the team to be at their best. And currently we're piloting design stand-ups and also monthly all-hand meetings. So this story never ends. We're continuing to learn with every new hire. Thank you, everyone. Follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn. Feel free to add me. We'll be happy to connect. And really curious to hear your questions.
Wow, thanks, Olga. Let's go into the questions immediately. You can also do a bit of a reflection on the things that you saw at Adyen, and maybe you have been into different phases within your company. So we can also do a bit of comparison and benchmark there.
Yeah, curious to hear how other people are doing it.
Hi, Olga, I have a question. Thanks for your speech. It was super interesting. Currently at my company, when we do interviews, we don't ask the same questions. So I found really interesting that you at Adyen are doing it. And I was wondering, how do you deal with information that are different from candidates? And yeah, how do you make up your mind or your decision based on those similarities and those differences?
Yeah. So because we have multiple people who are doing the interviews, and of course, each of us have our own biases and our own ideas, how the interview is supposed to go. So we created the file where we collected the questions that we want to ask every candidate. because this would help to ensure that every candidate had equal chance of expressing themselves and they had the same prompt as everyone else. This helps with the cases when someone is more introverted and someone is more extroverted, because someone would talk a lot, someone wouldn't talk a lot. It really helps also to manage expectations and also to assess later on, because then you go through the questions like, oh yeah, this person said this and this person this and this. It would fit more to this role or to this role, or maybe just not the fit at the moment. So pretty much like that. We would do a follow-up meeting after the interview, and we would talk about it, like what was the feeling, what was the vibe, was there energy, was this particular person excited about the position, or they were not really interested at all. But what really helps is while we do interviews, we take the notes. So even when you're discussing with someone later on, you still have your notes and you have your position. So you're not gonna get like biased to something else. And every interviewer has to fill a scorecard based on Adyen formula and make their decision if it's a yes or no. Does it answer?
Super interesting. Yeah. Super interesting. And
So
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
go, Erika.
Because at the end you mentioned how you are doing design reviews. Is it something you ask candidates as well?
It's part of our technical interview. So for the technical interview, we don't ask people to take home assignments. I actually have pretty strong position on that, because I think it's just stealing people's time. And if someone has a day job and they need to apply for jobs, and then they need to do 8 assignments, and of course, if you want to impress, you would spend a lot of time on this assignment, which you don't have. So I don't think it's really fair to the people. So what we do instead, we ask them to present the project they already have, something that showcases their skills really well, something that they're particularly proud about. And as a second half, we ask sort of for exprompt design critique. We ask them to choose a product like Spotify or YouTube, and we would talk over it as if we were designers working on it. So like questioning each other to understand why this decision was made, how this can be made better, just to understand what is the thinking process of this person. We don't want to see how they would design. It's important how they're thinking about design.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really interesting. We were also asking this question a lot to ourselves, and to what extent you want to take from people's evenings, because they're probably working or applying to a lot of other jobs. And we also came up with a very similar setup. So we do have the portfolio walkthrough, which is something that they should have prepared already. And the second part is a design critique session, but we take the critique on our own website, so they are also a bit more familiar with our product, and it's also a nice conversation starter about business-related questions, because as you mentioned, design is not just about the screens and how things look anymore, but it actually helps business develop and improve. So we also prefer that the interviewees have a sense of how our business model works and how they could contribute to it with their designs.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you deal with people who don't have portfolio or online?
Sorry, what's it again?
No, I was asking Berke, how does he deal with people who don't have portfolio? Because you mentioned you're reviewing portfolios, the ones who don't have portfolio online, basically.
That's for the ones who don't have a portfolio, it's very unlikely that they will make it to the second round.
Okay, fair.
Now, I think for people who don't have portfolios, it's a bit hard. It's interesting, maybe if you don't have any working projects, to have something as a starting exercise, something that you did just for yourself practicing, and this can be presented as well as a sort of exercise. Of course, it depends for which position this interview is for. Probably if for someone senior, then of course portfolio would be a must, and like some more like big projects would be expected. But if it's someone junior, of course, this is about the potential. Like, what is your thinking? What do you want to learn? What are you craving?
Yeah, 100%. Alexandra, want to add something?
Yes, I have questions. So you said that it's a few rounds or interview. This means that you have a few meetings, or this is everything during one interview? I ask about it because actually, especially at Poland, this interview process and hiring process is quite long, and this is even around 4 meetings. We have to do a lot of tasks, and actually you need really a lot energy to fight about some place, and at the end actually really often you say that sorry. So actually I'm really curious how it looks, if it's everything during every session, every round, this is during one interview, or you also organize a few interview meetings?
Yeah, it's multiple interviews, of course, because we have 3 stages. First stage is sort of get to know each other. It's just a half-an-hour conversation between the candidate and 2 interviewers, where we would ask this exactly same questions, just to understand what kind of person this person is. Like, of course, we've seen the portfolio, we've seen the CV, but who are you as a person? And then, of course, after that, there would be technical that consists of these 2 halves. And the last stage, by this point, we usually already know to which team this person would go. And the interview would be with potential team members, just to understand, like, do you guys even click? If it's going to work, maybe you're going to hate the person. And it's important to know who you're going to work with.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you.
Hello, yes. I would like to ask a question. Thank you for the talk. In my years of experience, you usually do what is necessary at that moment. So in my design career, I always go one moment you're UI design, other you're UX, the other you're researching, the other time you're doing analytics. So even now, I'm still thinking, oh, okay, what is my thing within UX? Where can I grow? And is my most talent? At Adyen, how do you discover that in a person? Maybe that has already been answered, because I had dinner, so I could only hear 80-90% of what you told. It was very interesting, but so sorry if that's already been answered. But at Adyen, how do you discover the real talent within UX of a person?
So first of all, we identify what kind of gaps we have in the team knowledge as a group. So as I mentioned, everyone has sort of unique talent, something that they're particularly passionate about, something they do most, or they have more experience and they can want to continue working with it. So usually we talk during the interview about that. It's gets pretty much clear, like after you ask the questions, like what would be something, what are you known for, that people come to you for questions. And there is always something that people, usually people ask to me to help them with wireframing, or people ask to me with this and that. And we always ask also, what is something that you need help with? There is always something that someone is not doing that well, and that's okay. It means someone else on the team is going to be able to cover up for that skill. And it's all complementary. Everyone sort of has their own special ability. And while we're talking during the interview and people present their projects, it's usually pretty clear what is the superpower of this particular person.
So if people come to you to ask about, for example, UI design, you know, you're talented in that because everybody keeps asking you about it at Adyen.
Yeah, definitely. For example, for me, UI is definitely not my strong side, but we have a person who is absolute god in doing UI interfaces, and I would just come to him and say, like, "Can you take a look?"
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That's pretty cool. And if you can connect it to the culture maybe that you have at Adyen from European perspective, how do you think it might actually kind of inform the way that you're working at Adyen? Because from what I'm hearing, it seems like quite a flat setup where the focus of the team is really covering up for each other. And you came up with the levels because maybe you had to come up at some point because of certain advertisements. So curious what's your take on it?
Yeah. So Adyen is originally a very Dutch company, and the flatness and the Adyen formula is heavily represents Adyen culture, being talking straight without being rude, picking up the phone instead of sending email. It's all about this personal, very straightforward communication. What I think is also becoming more prominent is that company is very international. Our team has people from every continent, and every one of them brings something to the team. And I think it's all kind of melting in this one big pot and creates a very open and safe environment when we can discuss what our differences or how we'd like to work. We always open to talk about if everything is going well or not going well, how can we change our day-to-day operations in order to ensure that everyone gets what they want to get. So I think originally Adyen is very Dutch company, but slowly it's being mixed up with everyone's culture, every hire that comes on board.
Awesome. Would like to hear more about diversity later, but first let's go with Tim.
Hi, thank you very much, Olga, for this this journey you made and sharing it. What I was interested in is how do you decide with the team when you have an open position? So what are the triggers in your company?
Yeah, it can be different. It can come directly for someone who is leading a new solution or a new stream. It's our product groups. They could just come to our head of product design and say like, listen, I have a feeling I will need a designer. Or it can happen that a designer was already kind of helping out this other product half-time, but they see that the need is there and it's just going to grow. It's not going to disappear anywhere. Then within the team, we will discuss it and say like, okay, we need one more person for this specific product. Or for example, we were doing a huge research about our insights products. And we did realize that it's probably there are going to be not one team, but multiple teams there, and we probably will need multiple people there. So it's very projective in a way. We try to look in advance. We never hire people not knowing where we're going to put them.
Yeah, exactly. And how do you define what kind of level designer you need?
Yeah. So as I was explaining, different levels, like for starter and experienced one, it really depends what kind of teammates are already there and how big or how complex is going to be specific product. So for example, if the product manager there is very, very experienced, it means maybe the designer doesn't have to have an experience of driving the full project themselves. We can hire someone less experienced. But if product manager is someone who is still learning the craft and a designer will have to take some of this burden. There should be at least one very experienced person who's going to be able to drive the product.
So you balance it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Like, don't get me wrong, a designer will never be able to substitute a good product manager. Product manager should be there, and they should be able to learn and like be a good player for the product designer. But product designer definitely, at least half of skills of good product designer is to be able to do product management.
Yeah, so if it's not that experienced, we call it lead, but you call it, what was the name again? Sorry.
We have a starter, core, and experienced.
Yeah, so if it's maybe a core, then you put a core next to it so that they can be balanced out and that they can help each other and go to that experience level. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
there is always should be some balance, like who can support whom. You can put two junior people together because then they will learn it at some point, of course, but it will take too much time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I also have one question. Olga, I'm interested in what you said about the document that you created to map criteria of expertise.
Mhm.
How did the team respond as the solution for this senior junior obstacle?
So we worked on this document as a leadership group, and we were like moving things out, moving things in, really trying to make it as realistic as possible. So no some like vague definitions, and try to make it very applicable so people can also map themselves to it. And when we released it and sort of showed it during the our bi-weekly meeting, we talked about it in detail, and we also asked like every designer to look through it and ask more questions and discuss it with their design lead. So we try to answer all the questions as possible, and of course, like some people have very high self-aware, and they were able to map themselves directly where they are, like realistically. And of course some people underestimate themselves and some people overestimate themselves, but that's just nature.
And is it open to everyone, like, or is it just
Every designer?
Yeah,
every designer has access to it, and they can look at it and use it for their own guidance, like which skills they're still missing in order to grow.
And they also see where others are mapped.
No.
Okay, no. So
there are just the definitions, and there are no titles next to people. Yeah, because technically within our system, everyone is a product designer.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's more for self-understanding where you stand and what you still need to do in order to grow or get promotion.
Yeah.
That was my question. Do you map this grade with a salary grade?
Yeah, we do map it to the salaries brackets, and that's how the conversation is pretty much going during the yearly review or quarterly review. In the beginning of the year, we always set up the goals that person wants to achieve. And throughout the year, we always talk about it, and we keep checking if person is on track, if they still understand where they're going, and if these goals are still relevant to this person. And at the end of the year, so end of the year evaluation is never a surprise. It has to be expected. You know where you're going. You've been talking about it the entire year. It shouldn't be like out of a sudden that you didn't meet expectations or something like that. Like if you haven't been meeting expectations, it should have been at least for half a year. And if design lead haven't seen it, it's a problem of a design lead.
Do you have the same salary skills for all designers? So for UI design, research, UX design?
With product design, yeah, it's pretty much the same. Yeah.
So many questions.
And it's gone.
Yeah. I was also wondering, Olga, in like a more personal question, in your position, how much time, like what do you think your balance is between like supporting the team and like doing actual work? Or actual work, it's yeah, I don't want to phrase it like that, but I hope you see what I mean.
I know what you mean. I heavily know what you mean. I think it was a very challenging move for me because everything that you've been taught to do and everything what for you were considered a good designer, you don't do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you expected to give it up and support other people to do it. And it's very complicated because at some point you start to doubt yourself to the point is like, am I still bringing value?
Yeah.
Yeah, but success of your team is pretty much your success.
Yeah.
Because if they're able to succeed and do things and bring value to the company, it means you empowered them and gave them the right tools and supported them along the way. So I would say I do still guide big projects. I design way less. I think I would say the actual design is about 25% of my time. But I do participate in design reviews. I do work on one-on-ones together with designers, and we're discussing actual designs, like why it's there, why it's not there, how would better to approach it, and things like that. But I do work more on a strategic level right now. But I do enjoy like doing interviews from time to time. The last week I've been interviewing some user testing things and I enjoyed it a lot.
Still making some room for the
yeah, for the craft.
For the craft. Nice. Thank you.
Thank you for the questions.
Berkay?
Do you have any other questions? Yes. All right. If not, then we can maybe start wrapping up the evening. Before doing that, I would like to ask, what was the most interesting thing that you learned this evening? And you can just join in and tell the group what it was for you.
Well, I can start. Well, I think I'm in a similar position as Olga is, but my company is not that big. And we're only doing design. But I think for me, it's good to see that you're struggling with exactly the same stuff and that we have similar solutions. So it tells me that I'm on the right way and that I see it and that it works and we can grow to that 30 level where you are. So that's cool to see.
Nice, some confirmation motivation for tomorrow's work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Nice, good luck. Anyone else?
For me, it's just good to hear that it seems there's a really good design culture at Adyen. I always, if I look for a job, I always look for companies like that or where there's a strong design culture. Like I said before, in many companies, smaller or more development focused, it's always difficult to it's always fighting for your why am I here? You know, what does UX bring? So you have to prove it, and it's always like it feels like an uphill battle. But I think it's always nice to hear that there's are companies that have a really good design culture where you can just focus on design with designers and not tell everybody why you should user research or do the user test, etc. So that's my biggest takeaway of this interesting talk.
Thank you.
And I heard they were looking to grow their team even further, so just coining it out there.
Already checked the website.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm also, Olga, thank you so much for this speech because it was really interesting for me, especially that my experience is working in small teams that is 1 or 2 designers. So actually it's quite difficult to, especially to divide our level. So actually that's why for me was not problem to answer your question, what is my level, because now I have an idea. So actually it would be actually really nice, go somewhere and I actually check what is my point. So actually this is what gave me to thinking. So actually it was super nice to hear that some company have really structure of this. So actually everyone can see what is position, and if somebody want develop, which position can somebody develop to make be better and better. So actually really nice. So yeah, thank you so much for it.
Glad to help.
Let's take one more.
Yeah, for me, sorry, I cannot show my face, but I really enjoyed the talk. And for me, it's really great sharing, because for me, it's like a really human-centered, like recruitment process that you shared, how you cared about inclusiveness and how you try to get to know the persons and care about the potential. So for me, it gives me a lot of hope in a sense when I'm looking for a job. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trang, as well for sharing that. My learning point was also quite similar to that. I mean, having a human-centered hiring process and even paying attention to how job descriptions are kind of like published was something that we maybe overlooked on our end. So this is definitely something that I will be bringing back to the office tomorrow.
Yeah, I highly recommend this Textio tool. I think for the trial, it's even free, but it really helps you to understand like where your language is leading you.
Yeah, very important. All right, so we're gonna round off the evening. Tim is asking how to spell the tool, and Yoline already got back to him. So that's, wow, faster than I speak. So thanks a lot again for sharing this evening, first of all, with us, with all the other like events that you could have joined, dear UXify members. So yeah, thanks for making time for us, and thank you, Olga, for preparing something that was custom based for UXify Eindhoven. So I think 2 months ago we had a conversation. I told her about the idea that we had in mind, and yeah, she managed to create this awesome presentation from scratch. So I really appreciate that. And that being said, yeah, do you want to add something? There's a bit of delay, so it's a bit difficult for me if you want to have closing remarks as well.
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to share our experience.